Today, we're going to talk about timelines and urgency in business. Now, the reason why this is important is because there are lots of you Nigerian self-employed people, Nigerian business people, Nigerian founders, Nigerian entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, whatever it is that you call yourself. There are lots of you who are in business today, and you don't realize that when you're having conversations with people, you should be trying to figure out what their timelines are, and you should only be talking to people who have a sense of urgency. So, let's see. How do we break this down now? Okay, timeline. Now, when you're having a conversation with someone who is a potential customer, you want them to buy your product, you want them to buy your service, you want them to sign up for a trial or, whatever. It's not as if the first time you talk to them, they're going to just go ahead and, transfer a deposit, sign up, buy, or whatever it is that you want them to do. So you're going to have to make a couple of phone calls, call them today, call them next week, send text message, send email, that kind of thing. But if you don't have a sense of what their timelines are, you won't know whether you are doing a reasonable amount of follow-up or follow-through, or you won't know if you're being a pest. In other words, if you're trying to get somebody to buy today, the person has the problem, but the person needs this problem solved in 2 weeks. But because, you deform, you don't want to follow up too much, you don't have a sense of their timeline, you now call the person in 1 month, and the person's like, oh, sorry, I already went with this so and so 2 weeks ago. I already bought from someone else. I'm sure there are lots of us who are listening to this podcast right now who have gone through that experience. You talk to somebody, you say, let me give them space. By the time you call back, say, oh, I went with somebody else. And in your mind, you're thinking like, I didn't know it was sharp like that. Like, I didn't know you needed this thing, like quick like that. So you made an assumption. You didn't ask any questions regarding the timelines. And because of that, you didn't know what was a reasonable amount of follow-up or a reasonable amount of follow-through to do. So we should be asking questions around people's timelines. It will determine whether we should be on their case like every single day, or whether we should be on their case like every three days, or whether we can just chill and call them maybe once a month. You won't know. So there are some selling situations where the length of the sales cycle will kind of give you a rough idea. Like if you're in the business of selling, let's say airplanes, for instance, to airlines. There's no how somebody wants to buy an airplane, they will talk to you today, and then they'll buy the airplane next week. So, of course, obviously, you know that you can't be giving somebody close marking, in that kind of situation. But for the rest of us, we need to know the sense of timelines. The people that we're talking to, what are their timelines? How soon do they want to move by? How soon do they want to get going? When would they like the installation done? How soon would they need delivery? We need to know. It will help us figure out how to plan and how to build the sales process. Now, urgency, something that is related. Urgency just means, of course, urgency now like urgent. You think they're urgent. Urgency just means that there is something objective. When we say objective, we mean, nobody say with a guess. This one no be guesswork. Like there's something that I have seen, or there is something that I have heard, or there is something that I can use to deduce that is not in my mind that will tell me that, okay, this person looks like they're getting ready to take action soon. So, back in my wedding photography examples, this one is obvious. You're talking to a bride and you ask her, oh, when is the wedding date? And she says, oh, no, he just proposed to me like 2 weeks ago. And I said, yes. So, oh, but the families have not met. No, our families have not met yet. Oh, so there's no wedding date. Oh, there's no wedding date. In that case now, urgency, no day. You get? They just proposed to her, brand new. So she's excited. So now she buzz you. But it's not as if there's a wedding date in view. It's not as if, we're working towards something. So right now just inquiry, she they inquire. So don't get too excited. So urgency is also important. Can we figure out something when we're talking to a customer, when we're talking to a potential client, when we're talking to a stakeholder, when we're talking to whoever? Is there something that we can see that based on that thing, that we have seen, we can now reason I'm like, okay, there's a sense of urgency here. So people that have a sense of urgency, nice one. Now prospect be that. Premium prospect. They have a want, they have a need, they can afford, and oh, it looks as if they're ready to take action soon. Okay, good. Now that kind of person, that's the kind of person that you now be close marking because you don't want to drop it. Because that kind of situation, you relax small, your competition will just come and carry them. Bap. So, urgency, timelines, urgency. We need to figure this out. Now, how do we figure this out? Are we mind readers? Well, obviously, the way that you're going to figure it out, if you've been listening to this podcast, it should come as no surprise. You figure it out by asking questions. If you got it, please clap for yourself. It's by asking somebody questions and engaging them in conversation. Now, asking people how soon are you ready to transfer the money, might not be the best way to go about it. So sometimes we have to stylishly ask some kind of questions, but from the questions we're asking, we're trying to arrive at, is there a timeline? Is there any sense of urgency? Once we figure out, okay, urgency day, okay, now know that it's a serious person. When we figure out timelines, no problem. We'll know how we will stagger this follow-up, how we go to pursue them. Now, the example that I'm going to use is, this one is not a fictional case study today. This one is a real life something. I'm talking to someone. She's a salesperson. She works for my client. My client is in the solar industry, and she's supposed to sell solar systems, solar and inverter installations. Sorry, but every single time I say solar system, what comes to my mind is Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Saturn, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, my son told me, and this was years ago, maybe like 10 years ago. The guy came home from school one day and I said, "Oh, Dad, they told us about the solar system." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then he says, he started talking, reciting. I said, "What about Pluto?" He said, "Pluto is not a planet." I said, "What do you mean?" My son said, "Dad, Pluto is not a planet." I said, "That is not possible, that Pluto is a planet." And then my son started to educate me. He said, "Yeah, Dad, when you were in primary school, Pluto was regarded as a planet. But right now, Pluto is not a planet. Pluto is an object within the Kuiper belt." I say, "What? The what?" He said, "The Kuiper belt." Yes. I said, "What's the Kuiper belt?" He said, "It is a something, asteroid, one thing. I say, "Hey." Anyway, I went to go and check, and he was right that Pluto is no longer a planet. So, for those of you who, you went to primary school, 70s and 80s, Pluto is not a planet anymore. So, when they say solar system, don't be adding Pluto. Pluto is not part of it anymore. And they don't mind me. That's just side talk. So, so she's responsible for selling solar and inverter systems, installations. And we've been talking about how she should be figuring out timelines and figuring out urgency because it's really, really important. Because you can't drop somebody a proposal today and then you go to close mark them every day. Meanwhile, the project that they want to execute is next year in March. And then the converse. You can't drop proposal with somebody today. The project is next week, but you're just thinking, most people on average, like around that kind of 2-3 weeks before they call me back. So let me just free it. Meanwhile, the person is ready to move next week. So you ask. And we come up with a couple of, anyway, so we had that conversation. But then she was having some difficulties. And so we said, okay, no problem. Let's revisit this whole thing again. Let's see if we can come up with some alternatives. And so I'm going to run through some alternatives that we use to try and figure out timeline and to try and figure out urgency. Now, obviously, all the questions that we're going to do here today are related to solar and inverter. So I don't want you to think that because it's solar and inverter related, that it doesn't apply to your business. Just try and distill, try and understand the principle. Where will they push? If you can understand the principle, if you can get the scope, all right, if you can get the angle that we're trying to come from, you see how you can do something similar in your business, no matter what it is that you do, whether in a startup, or whatever. All right, so just track with me. All right, now, before we jump back in, I'd like to tell you guys something about what me and my guys are working on, and that is Ikenga Software Factory. That is IKSF.ng. That's the website. Now, this is a service that is targeted at Nigerian founders. If you're Ghanaian listening and you're interested, I don't know, send me a message. Let's see if we can accommodate you. So it's targeted at Nigerian founders who want to build a product, but you are facing software bottlenecks. Maybe you've spoken to one or two software developers and then they cost too much. You describe your small idea and then they say, oh, yeah, I'll go and bring 5M. Or maybe you want to do it yourself, but you don't know how, you don't know software, you don't know computer code, you don't know all these kind of things. Or you want to start this product, but you're now looking for a tech founder, somebody where they technically inclined, will go run out for you. So those kind of situations. So Ikenga Software Factory, IKSF.ng, with this service, we take your product idea live 7 days. If you don't believe me, try it. A trial will convince you. It will not confuse you. Today's episode, I'm making it on the 29th. Yes. So try it. Go there today. You see that before 6th of May, bam, you don't live. Your idea is live. Then on Ikenga Software Factory, again, IKSF.ng, we're also offering free.com domains and then free hosting for 1 year. Even bringing the cost of running business for you, bringing it down. And then we don't hang on to the code. The product that we design, the code and the everything, now your own. Shabi, you don't pay. Now your own. Now you don't marry your wife. That's the attitude. So if tomorrow you say, I know they do again, no problem. We'll help you migrate the code. In fact, my boys with Ikenga Software Factory, IKSF.ng, they're currently working on a protocol where you can even migrate the thing yourself. You don't even have to tell us. We just wake up one day and say, where Chukudi is? Chukudi don't go. So if you want, you can just vamoose like that. So if you want to try this out, because we're trying to support 10 Nigerian entrepreneurs to get moving before the end of August in 2026, there's a 20% discount if you just go to IKSF.ng. Use the discount code TAV, that is TAV, yeah, that's part of my name, or use the discount code AYEDE, AYEDE, also part of my name. So do that and you'll be entitled to 20% off your first project. And if you do, please get in touch with me. You call me, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140, because these are my guys. I want to make sure that they take good care of you. All right, so now let's get back to this whole timelines and urgency matter. So this is what I told the sales lady. Let's call her, what should we call her now? Let's call her Snow White. Yeah, Snow White, yeah. So I told her, look, Snow White, this is what you can tell them. This is another way. You can tell the person, look, based on these challenges, when would you like to install your system? Based on these challenges, when would you like to install your system? Now, this kind of question assumes that we did a good job in qualification and discovery, and we have figured out what their main problem is. So if you do a good job of building rapport with somebody and they talk about how NEPA, they show them shaggy, as in like you're in band A, but NEPA is only giving like 1 hour of light a week, and on top of that you're paying 350,000 naira a month in electricity bills, and there's an absolute horror story. A way of sliding into this thing is not to ask them, oh, like, are you ready to pay 20 million now? Just say, okay, also based on these challenges now with this kind of load shedding, when did they do now? When would you like to install your system? So you see that kind of question, you give a sense of timeline, you give a sense of urgency. If somebody says, look, I don't tire. In fact, your engineer can come tomorrow. Let's come and do inspection self. Let's see how quick we can get started. You see, like that's a way of just figuring out people's timelines, figuring out people's urgencies. So, sense of urgency. Based on these challenges, when would you like to install your system? So please, remember, I'm talking about solar, but take the principle and apply it to your own business. Just try and decode the spirit, the scope that we're using in the question. Decode it, and then you can do something similar in your business. Then, another way of trying to get timeline and urgency is, I told Snow White that you can also tell customers, we usually do a comprehensive audit, a comprehensive inspection before, how do I put it now? We usually do a comprehensive inspection just to make sure that we design the system well for you. How soon can we come for a technical audit? Somebody who is saying technical audit, can you come like next month? You can see that thing is not urgent. Somebody who says, "Oh yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, I'm aware. Technical audit. Yeah, come around. My site manager will be around tomorrow." You see, there might be a sense of urgency there. But of course, you don't assume. We press for more. Like I would even say, if I was to say something like, we usually do a comprehensive inspection before uh, we usually do a comprehensive inspection, to make sure we design a system that is best for you. How soon can we come for a technical visit? And then the person says, like around that kind next month. I will now say, oh, next month. So this is not something you're thinking about doing in the next quarter. I will ask like that. Person will say, no, 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 no. I'm thinking, maybe like around that kind 6 months. I'm still saving. Now, because the person has said that, I now have timeline. Now, okay, we're talking in March. The person says 6 months. Okay, that means like around that kind of September, if all is well. And the person says he's still trying to save. I'll make a mental note of that. We'll still talk money later on. You see, so from asking like that and asking follow-up questions to these kinds of questions, you're getting a sense of timeline. You're getting a sense of urgency. You now know how quickly to follow up with somebody. Excuse me. We sales professionals, we don't say follow up, we say follow through. How soon we can follow through with someone. Then another question that I told Snow White she can ask, especially when talking to businesses. And this one is even tricky when it's business, because if it's a residential person, like let's say you're talking to me trying to sell me solar, you know that at the end of the day, the decision is my own. The worst case scenario, I'll talk to Madam. But if you're talking to me, we good. Or if you're talking to the Madam, you good. You should talk to Oga, and to get things going. But if it's a business now, there are going to be multiple stakeholders that are involved. CEO might need to sign off, accounting might need to sign off, people in the maintenance team will have to be on ground. Things like that. Different things. Because remember, the other sales associate, no longer with this firm, who was talking to one of these Canadian schools in Lagos, and I was telling him about asking questions, about the decision-making process and things like that, and he assumed that all was well because I was talking to the principal. Only to find out when the proposal landed on her table, she said, "I have to talk to the board." See, I told him, "See, this is the reason why I was telling you to ask these questions." Now the thing has come as a surprise. You've been blowing up her phone because you thought there was hope. Meanwhile, principal get Oga, and the Oga is the board. She has to present it to the board. So you now know that, okay, we step this thing down, try and figure out when the next board meeting is, and then, we'll continue from there. So one question that you can ask, I told Snow White they can ask is, do you need any approval processes for projects like this? And they ask. You never know. It's from talking that you might now discover that, the person you're talking to is not even the CEO. You assume the CEO, the person is actually facilities manager. And you say, yes, I have to talk to Oga Mike. I have to talk to this person. I have to talk. You're now getting an idea of who else might be needed to approve this thing and stuff like that. And in this case now, you're getting a clearer sense of their timelines. You now know that, okay, this is not something that this guy can approve today or can approve solo. That to approve, he would need to liaise with one or two people. So we haven't really gotten a sense of timeline here, but you can see that we're now getting ideas about how long this might take because there are a couple of other people involved. Then another question I told Snow White she can ask is there anything special you're planning towards for this installation? Ask, because you never know. One salesperson who tried this also for solar sales found out that the guy was a situation of a reverse japa. That there's some people that when things were getting hot, they just pack up and they evacuate, they leave the country. But then as they go outside now, they realize that things are hot outside, so it's as if Nigeria is even better. So the guy was now doing reverse japa. So he was bringing the family back. So before, he sent everybody out. Say, wifey, children, all of you, go. And the plan was to go and join them. But then, when they try that lifestyle, they say, hey, that's what abroad be. That's not that easy. So they now do reverse japa. So from asking, say, oh yeah, sure, my wife and kids, yeah, they're going to be back in September. We're relocating finally. So, as you ask like that, see, by the way, all these things don't work all the time. Sometimes you get lucky. So yes, in that case, we're lucky that the person answered honestly and was very specific. Wifey and kids are coming back in September. I'd like to get this thing sorted before then. So, We now had a sense of timelines. We now know when these people are ready to go. And they also get a sense of some urgency. Because, of course, you didn't want Madame and the kids to come and land, and then they will now be dealing with NEPA. Because the disadvantage of living abroad is by the time you live abroad for a few years, you don't get used to that. You're now used to that 247 power lifestyle. So for the children to now adapt, you come back and then heat and mosquito and then all that. So we now we now have the information that we needed. But please remember, not everything works 100% of the time. Don't go and try these questions one time. The thing doesn't work, and then you say this thing doesn't work. It's not like that. That's not how it works. You try again and again and again. Am I even doing it right? You try and make it your own. You practice. And eventually you start seeing some progress. I remember Brian Tracy keeps talking about old Brian Tracy, old material. Used to talk about doing things to put the odds in the probabilities in your favor. So you get good at asking these kinds of questions. You figure out timelines, you figure out urgency. And you now know how you package yourself, how you plan the rest of the sales process. So is there anything special you're planning towards, for this installation? Then okay. Now, at the time that Snow White and I, again, not the real person, Snow White and I were having this conversation, our fuel was close to 1,300 per liter in Nigeria. So, if you're selling solar and inverter solutions, it actually is not out of place to ask someone that, are you thinking of moving soon because of the fuel prices? You'd be surprised. Some people might answer and say, oh Diego, this one way fuel be 1,300. My sister, you'd be surprised the conversations that you have. And see, this is the reason why I say that selling and sales should be conversational. Because if you're reading this thing like interrogation, nobody likes to be quizzed. Nobody likes to be interrogated. The guy will lock up. But if it's a conversation, you're a friendly somebody, you're a nice somebody, you're a casual somebody, una de yarn, you're just talking, then that is where you get to hear things like this. So are you thinking of moving soon because of the fuel prices? You ask. It's okay. Honestly, it's okay. Remember that you're the product matter specialist here. So you have permission to ask some kind of questions. And always remember, if you ask questions and then people rake for you, they provoke because they think they say you overstepped your bounds, it's very easy. This is Niger. It's very, very simple. You apologize. You empathize. Then you refocus. And then you try and get an engagement. Sorry, advancement. Let me repeat. You apologize, empathize. Then you refocus and then try and refocus on them and then try and get an advancement. So if you say, are you thinking of moving right now because of your prices? And the person rake, like, what the hell do you mean? Like, what is your, like, young lady, like, what is your own concern? So you apologize, empathize. Say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, sir. I wasn't trying to, I wasn't saying anything about your financial situation. I beg, sir, no vex. I didn't mean any insult. The reason why I was just asking is because there's some information that we need just so that we can serve you better. And if this was something you were thinking of moving on soon, I just wanted to be able to tell our technical crew, my technical guy, Johnny, I just wanted to tell Johnny them that, they should keep 2 battery for Mr. Okoro. That was all, sir. So, sir, no vex. I didn't mean to offend you. That's it. That's just a simple scope. And then now that you've explained, you now try and get an advancement. So, sir, these ones that we've been discussing, so the storekeeper or my technical crew, so should I tell them, should we keep, Abi, we should not keep? Is this something that you want to do now, Abi, you're not going to do now? See, so you just apologize, you empathize with the person, say, I beg, no vex. Then, you refocus on them. And it must always be on them. Now, the reason why I was asking is because this information will help me to serve you better. Then you now try and gain an advancement. You try and move things forward for the next step. Then, let's see. What else? Okay, now another question you can ask. This one is just in casual gist. So what happens to your business when power fails during the peak season? You can ask. There's another solar person who had the liver to ask the question. And it turns out that I think was it a betting? I can't remember if it was a betting company or something. But anyway, because the person was using UPS, UPS. So because the person UPS failed, I think they lost some data. It's not a bad question to ask. So when you ask now that kind of question, you're getting a sense of, oh, okay, this is actually a serious something. Like every single time this person's power something just crash, as in data will just miss. Okay, that kind of person, okay, yeah, they have a serious problem. So, we go to give them, maybe not close marking, but, we go to follow them. We stay on it. This is not the kind of person that you talk to and then you say, you know what, let me call him back in 4 weeks. Another question that I wish more people would ask, but I don't know, Nigerian business people, you're afraid of asking. Is there any reason you started researching now? Ask. For me, I ask the question. I will talk, we'll learn about you. I say, oh, is there any reason why you're reaching out to me now? Ask. You never know. You never know. You don't know what kind of information you're going to uncover. Somebody might say, look, I'm so frustrated, I'm tired of this NEPA situation, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, good, 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 good. We now know that there's a serious problem. We now know that there's a sense of urgency. Some other person will say, nothing in particular. Some of the people at the office were just talking, and I was just wondering, how much would a solar system cost? Sorry, solar and inverter system. Forgive me. Every time I say solar system, I remember the planets. How much would a solar system cost? By the time the person answers like that, you now know that, oh, okay, nothing deep, nothing serious. They're just reaching out to you now just because somebody in the office, like, you know how people just gist that, oh, Abdul Rahman bought solar system, or he bought his own for 6 million. Really, 6 million? Yes, and the thing is powering the system, powering his house for 3 days. 3 days, 6 million. Oh, okay. And then because of that, they now reach out to you. So they're just curious. So ask. More of you should ask. Is there any reason why you started researching now? For those of you who are web developers, somebody call you, they say you want a website. After you talk to them about the website idea, what they want to, just ask them, oh, is there any reason why you reached out to me now? Ask. If the person says, yeah, because we are trying to expand and so in the business, we want this feature to go live we want this feature to go live in the next 6 weeks. Good. You now have information. Now, okay, it'd be like, say, this is a serious something. They want this thing to go live in 6 weeks. Okay, no problem. More follow up. Stay on it. You never know. Ask. Is there any reason why you're researching now? Oh, no, I was just curious. Oh, I just saw your ad and I just got curious. At least you know the temperature of these people. Then another question I told Snow White that she can ask is your current setup ready for solar? Some people say that's where you now find out that, oh, okay, they had solar before, the thing packed up, blah, blah, blah. So, the trunking is still there. It would just be a matter of you coming in and, swapping out the cables or swapping out this or swapping out that. So is your current setup already ready for design? It might give you a sense. Did they have solar before? From asking that kind of question, that's when you might be able to figure out if somebody else came for a visit before. Because there are some people who answer and say, oh, yeah, sure, we had another company over, they already looked at the roof and they say everything is okay. At least now you know that, oh, so they have been talking to other people. I am not the first company that they're calling. So things like that. Now, usually I try to give a very structured and principled framework for how to run through these things. So I'm terribly sorry that today I didn't give you an accurate framework for how to ask questions like this when it comes to timelines and when it comes to urgency. To be honest, I'm not even sure if somebody can come up with a framework. Anyway, I'll look. Maybe somebody has come up with a framework. But the thing is, we try. We just keep on trying. The thing is just, as you heard from me now, you kind of get the scope that I'm trying to use. You try and apply it to your business. Or you hear other people selling and then you try and mimic what it is that they do. But from listening, from some creativity and from trial and error, we can figure out how to get better at our question asking process. Like when I was talking to, funny enough, is my own solar guy, when I wanted to buy batteries over here in Abuja and we had spoken. And then he just said casually, so okay now, so when you go send it back? And I was impressed. I was like, okay, cool. I've never heard that before. That was the first time I heard it. And I tried it on someone and the thing was okay. The conversation just flowed smooth. So okay. So when you go send back now? As in just casual, two guys, two young men under the yarn. So you just say, that's how the guy said it. So when you go send back, that was it. I was like, okay, interesting. Direct, and informal. As in it's very direct, but Sha is not too forceful. He didn't come out and say, when are you paying me? He didn't come out and say, when will you transfer? He just said, when you go send back. I said, okay, correct. I've now found something that I can use in my own tool chest. So like that, just keep on, uh, just keep on coming with ways to try and ask timeline questions, urgency questions. Then listen to what other people do as well, and then try it out. And over time, as Brian Tracy says, the odds will be in our favor. So remember, for those of you who are Nigerian founders who are trying to build your product, but you're facing some software issue, the money too costs, you don't know code, you don't have a tech founder, that's not a problem. You just go to Ikenga Software Factory. That is iksf.ng. Go there and we'll get your product idea live in 7 days. You have a free domain and a free hosting for 1 year. If at any single point you want to bail, that's not a problem. You can migrate the code by yourself. So to start, because we're trying to get 10 people up and going before August is over, you get a 20% discount. So you just type in TAV, T-A-V, when you get to the website, iksf.ng, or you type in Ayede, A-Y-E-D-E. And when you do that, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message. Just reach out to me, 080-6466-2140. I'm asking because I want to be sure that you've been taken care of, and I want to be sure that there are no issues. Because before I put my name to a project, I want to be sure that everybody is, you understand, everybody's kosher and everything is good. I want to be sure that I don't put my name somewhere and then people will rubbish me. So, yeah, let me know. So that's it. I'll catch you all some other time.